This theater, I always.
This is the best
wonderful to be here. Yeah.
Welcome, you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
The world's coolest filmmaker, everybody. So I have a bunch of questions, and I want to start. There's no better writer than you when it comes to childhood memories, teenage years, adolescence, all that stuff. You just seem to have access to it that many of us are desperate to try and get. You just kind of get it right. It's kind of amazing the way you do it. Is it easy?
Yeah. If I have one gift in the world, it's really just memory. Like I remember visually like everything.
Yeah.
So I can just go to a point and I've always kind of written from that place.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, like in junior high, I wrote a play about just a camping trip my family had taken. And I just made it funny, everybody was laughing. I was like, oh, I can take what really happened and kind of make it funny and entertaining.
Right.
So I had that imprinted pretty early on. And I've always kind of worked from that place, so I don't know, maybe I'm just not that creative,
Right.
Just like it's something, hey, make a movie about this. I was thinking, on this in like 2004, I had an idea, I was like, yeah, that was a weird time to grow up. I was living kind of near NASA, Tommy, head of animation here. We went to the same elementary school, years apart, I'm older. But I was thinking, when we walked on the moon, I was living kind of near NASA, out in the burbs. We were only out there about 18 months. And I said, what an interesting time to be a kid, I've seen a lot of movies from an astronaut perspective, but has anyone told it from just what it's like to, two people walked on the moon, 3 were on the mission, but 600 million people saw it. It's like, do it from that perspective. So I said, that was the germ, and then I just thought about it over the years and started doing a lot of research and seeing the whole event from not an 8-year-old, I was 8 at the time, but seeing it from an adult perspective. What a magnificent TV production.
Yeah.
Cronkite, CBS, they even mentioned it at the end. Doing all the research and kind of learning a lot, seeing it, went down that rabbit hole for a lot of years, and then eventually wrote a script, and then decided the film in my head wasn't working live action, it just felt too literal, so I was like, this should be in.
Right.
And that's when I got with my buddy here, and we had been developing this technique over the years, and kind of gone to the window. We didn't want to do what we had done with Scanner and Waking Up, we kind of gone on that, but we can jump in
No, so you had a finished script that in your mind, you didn't know quite what direction it might go, but it could have been a live action.
Yeah, it was frustrating because it was too literal. I could see it not really working. Like, is it real? Did it really happen? I was getting questions like, no, it didn't happen. The kid didn't go to the moon. It's like, people it brings out this literalness. Once it's animated, people quit asking that question. So I kind of shunted around it. It just naturally evolved.
So had you seen the script when he was flirting with it as a possible live action thing, or did he plot it to you and say, we're going to do this?
We talked about it, but I didn't see the script until he was thinking about it as an animated.
Right. Well, and what was the difference for you in between, how he approached you in Waking Life or Scanner Darkly and how about here? This is a technique they've been developing for, what was Waking Life? A long time ago.
Yeah,
2001.
Came out in 01. We started shooting it in summer 99.
Right. So the better part of 20 years, you guys have been perfecting this. I mean, this is a kind of...
This is a whole nother, this is really a 2D animated film with the only remnant of what we've done before is probably just the scope.
Yeah.
Lines and even that's the way we do.
Right. Every story demands a different approach to it visually. And I think this one, because it was sort of more grand, the other ones were more grounded and more real, but because this really was into fantasy and open space, and we'd all, there's all the archive material, movies that were there, which was really exciting for us to sort of reanimate those things and those memories. But I think the specificity of his vision of that, and again, the interesting thing in the mind, how it takes it, I think thematically it works with the idea of memory and reality and how that plays out through your life.
Well, that comes from the script, from the structure of the script, I suppose, and that kind of, well, I suppose it's bookended to a certain extent, but it's the large back bookend, but kind of starting out, and then, so that structure obviously came in the script, that this sort of, that amazing balancing act between the real event and his journey there as well.
I thought, in animation that would be even more wonderfully blurry.
Yeah.
To me, it's memory, fantasy, history, cultural history. You know how cultural history really becomes our memories of films we watch, like of the Vietnam War. It's not few people experienced it by now, but we all experienced it on TV, so everyone kind of seen the media. So part of we have a whole different look for TV. There's so much TV in the movie, but again, it's pretty realistic. It's sitting around watching TV. So. There was more. I cut out a lot. I had like a whole section of Saturday morning cartoons. I had Houston wrestling. I had all kinds of fun stuff. But it is fun. We had a little animation. It's really fun to animate animation, and to like animate pretty iconic imagery. Sound and Music 2001.
Yeah.
To like reimagine those things.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what we're doing in our minds anyways. We remember things. We're kind of doing these constructs. And if you think of 2001 now, you're having to kind of remember something, which is reanimating your mind. So I thought, that's a nice place for the film to exist. Kind of want to blow everybody's minds in that regard.
Right. When I first saw it, I thought, well, this is such a great structure and an excuse to get a story on the road for all these amazing memories that you have and your ability to do that. So obviously you have access to the memories of your childhood and your family. You're growing up with Cheetos, with the Fritos, with the chili and those sorts of details. But how much did you have to go to the well of research in terms of, because the funny thing is it actually fulfills itself as I guess science fiction film in a way. All that NASA stuff seems so genuinely authentic.
It is. There's not a line from NASA that wasn't original. We got into all the transcripts, all the transmissions, every image. NASA is very generous. They're by far my favorite government agency. They give and get footage to make films. They don't care. It's public domain. You pay for it. You're a taxpayer. They're great. And you don't have to pay for the footage through there. But all that is, you might recognize a lot of that footage. We just animated a lot of it. So, just all that. But several years of deep dive research for that and all the TV stuff. It's not like I remembered all that. Like I said earlier, I remember the kid perspective, but the more adult, rational thing we were doing required a lot of research.
Where were you when it happened? On the couch?
Yeah, and I true to form, I think I fell asleep. But I saw it. My eyelids. But no, we had no extra world that day. It was a tough, and I was just really tired by evening. It was late, and no, I remember it really well.
Do you remember where you were, Tommy?
I was one. So.
Where should I go next? Just explain for everybody, and me again, even though I know this, it's still kind of surprising to me every time, the process that you go through. Because there are credits that we see here that we don't normally see in an animated film. I think it's how it results in such great performances, such sort of emotional performances that you might not normally get in an animated film. So I suppose I'm going back to casting and the basic, simple steps to how
it's just like any other film. You cast, we rehearse a lot, we form this family, we just, we shot it in 20 days in a green screen environment, which was kind of a little mind-numbing after about 3 days. You're just like, we're here again. Most location shoots, every day you're in a new location, or maybe a week.
I cannot see you on a green screen.
Yeah, well, like ball kind of thing. It's like, oh gosh, we were pre-visiting it on the side, but the cool thing is, it was all like make-believe. You didn't really, I mean, like we're at a drive-in or something.
Right.
And we're not at a, we're on a green screen, but we already have it all, like here were the cars, and we could look on the screen and say, you know, you map it all out on the floor, and even the hallways in the house, it's okay, that's, oh, you just walked into the wall, you gotta walk.
So there isn't even a hallway?
No.
Is there a station wagon?
We had to have a station.
Okay.
Anything they're interacting with is real, any prop, any car, yeah, that kind of stuff's real. So, but you can shoot pretty efficiently, you know, it's a 20-day shoot. So, and it's fun, it's kind of like I said, make-believe, but you can shoot, you know, a lot of takes, whatever you gotta do. The kids had a lot of fun with that. But then you edit it like a regular movie, except what you're looking at is a green screen with performances, and then as the animation starts showing up, you know, we start dropping in backgrounds.
Right.
But we really don't start animating until we lock picture. And by that point, I have all Jack's voiceover and all the music and everything.
Right. So, going to that, so you're talking about a section that you cut out. So you're judging off of the green screen or a little bit of background,
Yeah.
the overall movement of the story.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of tough. The movie's a little longer, but it looks crappy. You know, it's just you have to imagine what it's gonna be. We might have a still up or some really bad looking home movie. You know, a lot of the textures we were going for were like home movies.
Right. So then,
A lot of bad archival stuff that we could kind of clean up and make vibrant in animation. So.
But then where do you, but then when stuff starts to come back to you, you're used to a performance of a real person's face, which I imagine you must become very attached to at a certain point. When does that, how does the interaction happen between the two of you and this team that you have, where something is either lost in translation, or how do you navigate the waters of you know, bringing the performance to life?
Well, you know, I couldn't wait for them to be animated. You know, you just know that's what they're going for. We've done a lot of spending time during the design, so you kind of know what you're going for with each character. We're trying to do as much as we can with as little as possible in a way. So that comes in like a year and whatever. During the pandemic, we're just on the computer every day, just, you know, and at that point, I'm just going, yes, no, that baseball wouldn't bounce that way, you know, I'm just kind of orchestrating, like, and explaining to a lot of people in Amsterdam, like, Little League baseball. I have no idea what a lot of this stuff is. And then I'm the old guy in the room, I'm trying to explain, no, this is, you know, like, everybody's a generation younger.
Rotary phone.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to obsessively get every detail right.
Right.
And it's really, it was fun. And it was a fun film to be working on during a miserable time in our lives, you know, during the whole pandemic. So we were very lucky. We wrapped the live action shoot about 3 days before the whole thing shut down. And we had, you know, do you remember? We had 6 weeks of prep. You know, to see a movie that seems so elaborate. But I told my production designer, Bruce Curtis, I said, good news, bad news. Bad news is we started shooting in 6 weeks, and we're just, you know, starting now. Well, it would be crazy for a real movie. I said, the good news is we don't have to really build anything, we just have to design it all. So we just needed it to be here, so it worked, but thank God we were getting kicked out of our green screen at a certain date, so we back in. It was great. Netflix said yes, and we went. And we're very fortunate.
I think your question about the performance, and Rick, I think that, you know, because it's based on live action performance, you have to honor that. And the whole goal is, if you don't capture that and elevate it in some way, then why would you animate it at all? So really the time and the effort was really put into that character animation, and really like 80% of it's right here. You know, it's all in the eyes.
One of the moments I noticed most was just not just that his eyes were red coming out of the pool, it was the exact right red, you know, like growing up at that time, it was like, made my eyes sting, and that kind of put me into just how hard that kind of thing might be to get right. That's the kind of thing that you can get hung up on forever, trying to get right, but.
Yeah, like every part of that's trying to, I go back to the shooting of it, we just had a big screen open, like, come up like you're coming out of the pool and your eyes are stinging. Go. I never experienced that in life, you know?
Wow, well, I thought about this movie completely differently. I kind of imagined you out in a pool, shooting it, and having to erase stuff, and then just sort of, I
I
guess.
thought we were gonna do something, but like, at the end of the day, we didn't get right, we couldn't shoot at the pool, and they couldn't have us, or like, screw it, we'll just do it all. Even when he's getting pulled from the undertow,
Yeah.
we had him on a little pulley, and we had a shirt back, with rollers on it, little stunts, you know,
Right.
it was all fake.
I mean, because a movie like this is a real movie. This guy, you know, I mean, that's like what, $100 million movie?
Yeah, I think it's about 80 to 100, which I don't think I would have gotten. Okay, only sitting around watching TV. Or, you know, a trip to the moon. Yeah, I would have never gotten too far with that anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Well, how
it
did
was
you
practical though.
How did you find your boy?
Oh, the guy.
He's terrific. I mean, they all are.
Yeah, all the four youngest siblings had never been in a movie before. The older siblings had, and the parents are, you know, they're like professional actors. But the kids, we just kind of put out a pretty open call for kids who come in, and probably had the most fun callback in film history because we just had games and bikes, and you know, kids were playing kickball, and they didn't really forgot they were being evaluated because I'm saying, can that kid throw? You can. I was just eliminating kids left and right. Yeah, I can't do it. And they were all people who had given good auditions, but it was kind of seeing how they did.
So you were like the Little League coach throwing.
Yeah, I was the guy. But what I liked about Milo is we didn't really know how it goes between him and a couple other kids who were technically probably even better actors, but they were. I just liked his unflappability. As kids start disappearing, other kids were realizing, oh, this is the final callbacks, you know?
Right.
And he didn't care. And I said, that's what I wanted. Don't we all hate like the two cute kids who are too solicitous of adult, you know, response and everything. So he just didn't really care much, you know? So I really like that. I needed guys that would go, yeah, okay. Because he was like that the whole way. He never, you know, I never even told him, you know, this whole movie rides on 9-year-old self. But I never, you know, he was just truly unflappable. But he had that quality, and he was a smart kid, and was just a good enough athlete, you know, he was just good enough at all that stuff. So, I don't know, kind of a leap of faith, but
Right. He's terrific.
great kid, he's already grown about that much. Yeah, you would recognize him.
So did you have to tell him about how did you enter him into this world? You know, rotary. This is a rotary.
Yeah.
Phone. This is
We did it with all. We'd have props and in rehearsals.
rehearsals.
And also teaching them, you know, kids say that some of them can't even ride bikes, or you know, their parents won't let them get out of their sight, so you can't ride a bike in the neighborhood, or you know, whatever. So yeah, just getting the skill set that would be required to look natural, doing some of the stuff, repairing a bike tire, changing a tire, all that kind of crap. It was just kind of fun, but it was, that's when I felt like, oh yeah, a different generation or two that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with kids, that handball rules and kickball rules have changed dramatically. You don't see that much kickball anymore.
Really?
Which is a shame.
It was a great sport. Even the transition I showed in the very first scene, that you couldn't throw the ball at the kids anymore.
Yeah.
You might hurt somebody. Damn, that was the end of the game. Can't been the same since. But I think Mr. St. George, our coach, who did have that sadistic put your nose in the thing, he's probably still alive somewhere. I'm hoping he sees the movie. He gives me a call.
Were you using the real names from your memory? Were you able to do
You know,
that?
you're not supposed to do that. situation, you go, you know, by the time there's human beings, so.
Right. You just log in Netflix. Is this thing clear? Well, let's talk about that actually. This is, if NASA's your favorite government agency, who's your least favorite?
Yeah, legal clearances.
How's the Walt Disney
on
Corporation?
everything? Nice that you mentioned that, you know? There's this thing, in speaking of legal clearance, called fair use. That if you're actually talking about something, maybe culturally critiquing it or satirizing it, law says you can kind of use it. So we got on that pretty early. Tinkerbell flying off. Can we do that? And, yeah, we had a good lawyer came back. Yeah. Can we do that? Can we use 2001? Yeah. Since you're talking about it, we didn't have to. I hope there's no copyright holders. Descendants of copyright holders. And, you know, we got to do that with some songs too. That little montage where you follow the songs that are named after girls in class. We didn't clear most of those. But we did clear the Johnny Cash because we used it a little differently. But yeah, it's amazing what you can get away with if you. I think like we should do a whole movie with songs that you're either talking about or critiquing. Just fill a whole movie with fair use things. But this is usually that's just the killer, right? You're making movies like you can't use that, or if you do, it's $250,000.
Yeah.
But this was like, it felt like a little payback of 30 years of just getting killed. It was like, no, we did pretty well.
Well, it's what the movie depends on is all the details, the absolute commitment to all the details. And once you hear one thing, you have to hear all the rest. And all these memories just keep cascading for any of us alive anywhere near that time. So it makes the film so special. So Tommy, are you day to day, once he's shot, he sits and waits for you to keep coming, feed stuff back? How does the collaboration
Tommy's
work?
on the set, you know, he would even come over to me, I'm doing a camera move, he goes, if you do that camera move, that'll cost us about an extra month. Do that. It's like, no. Yeah. He's in my ear.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of weird because there's a design process. We actually started after we filmed the reference part of it, which usually you do all that beforehand. But once it was sort of put through and we kind of understood what the story was, because the story, it's a different story than those films, right? So even on the script to that, it sort of changed its meaning. And so we were able to really construct the animation and look around the story in a very profound way. And then it starts out really slow, sort of backgrounds, style frames, things like that, and then it just starts to build. It becomes a machine that just builds up. So we're starting out very slowly, but then after a couple of months, it's just a machine.
Right.
Through that, and it's just a lot of moving parts. And I was going to do specifics.
Slow moving.
He had the grand vision of it.
Right.
But it was a fun collaboration. We just talked about like textures and colors, how colorful the Aero was, Kodachrome 40s, or Kodachrome stuff, all movies, Saturday morning cartoons, you know, reference.
And also, like, how do we, like Galveston, the first thing that Rick said was like, that's too pretty. You know, so then we had this idea, like, well, what is it? It's memories. We're not really representing Galveston as it is, but we're representing Galveston as we thought it was when we were kids. You know?
Yeah, so it's a little heightened.
Right.
A lot of that smoky color palette.
So what was the biggest challenge then, in terms of a sequence or a scene or something that just became, inevitably in a film, there's that one thing that keeps banging your head against
It
the
was
wall.
a small thing. It
It
was
was
like
small.
the Frito pie that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it was like the
It
frozen.
was the ice on
Yeah,
the bologna sandwich.
Yeah.
I just like, God, that looks like mold. It's not ice. I was just sending it back. I was that picky patron sending back their food. I just did that.
Well, you got it right, because it really did look like that,
Yeah.
just that right texture of
Food was the hardest thing.
food.
Yeah, food was tough.
There's a lot of food.
And
Jello.
and somehow get the jiggle right. It's fun. The Alpine sleigh ride I would ask for.
I thought that was easier than I thought it was going to be.
It's not forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tunnels, we have less reference for that.
Is Afterworld world still there?
No, another, that does put us to 100 million to recreate Astrodome. No, they tore it down, it's across the freeway from the Astrodome, that's barely still standing. But yeah, no, it's long gone. So we're conjuring up a world that really doesn't exist anymore. Long gone.
And when did you, clearly, obviously when you were writing the script, voiceover was gonna be a strong part of it.
Yeah.
And
It
when
was like sitting down being told that I don't use voiceover that much.
no, you
I
don't
really haven't, but this felt like, oh, you sit back and get told the tale.
Yeah.
I kind of use that, You know that first section of Goodfellas where they're, he's just, I said, where did you do the whole movie?
Yeah. No, it really works.
Yeah, that was fun. I figured I could get away with it.
Well, when
I
you're
was
a
trying to get
writer
away
as
with
you are, you can get away with it. Jack Black is a great person
Yeah.
to say those words. I think
I
really
know.
can kind of make things feel like it's coming out of his
Lively
head.
and funny, and he just has that great spirit to it. Yeah, he was so fun to work with on this. He's just the best.
Yeah.
He's really great. So, yeah, guess we felt like we were getting away with it the whole time. A lot of things.
Are you gonna do another one of these?
Animated film.
We always say no.
Then years go by and there'll be a film like, oh, it doesn't work live action. Maybe it's an animated, yeah, maybe.
Right.
Who knows, nothing immediate. Definitely takes some recovery time.
I know we're starting to run out of time, but there's a couple more questions I wanna ask. Number one is, how do you sleep at night knowing that the Astros cheated in the World Series?
Are you talking about this last World Series? Were you around October, November this year?
I'm talking about the Dodgers.
Oh, the Dodgers weren't in the World Series this year. Let's talk about
Does anybody else want to follow up question?
I'm glad you guys got your own Astros World Series from the shortened series season. It's fine. World Series with the Astros.
Are you looking forward to your team next year being in the World Series? And do you want to make a prediction this year about how your team's going to do?
Bring it, man. The Astros are good. The Astros of the era depicted in here were terrible. Okay? It's, I'm a 50-year. I was at the Astrodome when it opened as a little kid.
Yeah.
They were a terrible franchise for so many years. Please give, they've been good the last 8 years.
They have, it's true. You maybe, I do remember my first introduction to the Astrodome was in Bad News Bears. Breaking Training.
Not Bruce. Yeah, you probably saw that before you saw Brewster McCloud.
hadn't seen Brewster McCloud. I was too
Because
young.
that's the ultimate Astrodome movie.
And that was the year, a couple of years, 3 or 4
it opened
years.
in 65. Brewster McCloud's 70.
Or 70, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, when were you there? When were you right you're talking about an 18-month window that is right at this time?
We moved around Houston a lot. I was out in the suburbs only for a little while. But I lived for a while right near the Astrodome. My parents would just drop us off at 5 p.m. as a babysitter just to get rid of us. And we get 50 cents, we'd go to center field seats and sneak, because it was empty, no one was at the game, sneak down to wherever you wanted to sit, chase foul balls, get broken bats. It was just great. It was our babysitter. So I kind of grew up in the summers. We were there just all the time.
And that triple feature is a real triple feature, isn't it? The countdown.
Absolutely.
That's the Altman countdown, right?
Really, Altman.
Yeah. With Robert
No one's
Altman.
mentioned that. Yeah, it's Altman before he was Altman.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's TV Altman.
Yeah, it's like the last
Square
Altman
Altman.
film. Yeah, and I didn't know that for years. I remember those 3 films, and that was 68 actually. And then years later, I guess when I became kind of more film literate, I was looking through Altman's. Oh, Countdown! I remember that.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was kind of fun little shout out.
It's such a good triple bill. Countdown. What's the second one? Was the Nazi?
Frozen Dead.
Frozen Dead. And It. Riding the Towel.
And none of these films are seen, so it's funny how in your mind, like some of the obscure TV shows, you don't really know what's going to end up a classic. But Planet of the Apes and 2001 were playing at the same time.
Yeah.
And everything's pretty exact. Like those 4 films were playing at the drive-in
Right.
at that night. stopping on TV. If you look at you got a TV guide, that's what's on. That Beverly Hillbillies, that was that day. You know, might as well get it.
Is it Susan Sontag? Who's no,
Gloria
it's
Steinem.
Gloria Steinem,
Yeah.
that's right. Gloria Steinem. Who's the guy? Who's the
Messenger, Ira Messenger or something.
Right.
He's another radical
Right,
person.
yeah.
But you gotta hand it to him. TV back then, the TV production of that, they had all kinds of, they had great science fiction writers, they had other astronauts, it was quite a production. They invited on these dissident voices, people who were against the program. That's what surprised me as an adult, looking, kind of informing myself about it more. It was like, you know, they had, Kurt Vonnegut was on. I tried to get him and I had to cut him, but he's just shitting all over it. You know, I forgot, I didn't pick this up as an 8-year-old, but hippies and kind of counterculture people thought it was a waste of cash. It was kind of this militaristic, crew-cutted guy thing that felt very nationalistic, and it was, you know, pretty Cold War exercise. You know, that's not to be cynical, but, you know, the optimism. I think everybody had the sci-fi writer mindset that, oh, we were gonna be on Mars and, you know, all that. We didn't figure that someone would quit writing the checks, you know, and that was the government after we kind of won that Cold War exercise. You know, when we landed on the moon, the Russians, we didn't know this, but they were orbiting the moon. They were probably a month or two away from landing on it. So we won that skirmish in a big way. And that was it. They just didn't, you know, no more. I think it's all coming now. Well, it sounds like we'll be on the moon again in a couple years. But you don't think it's gonna stop, you know, that would be the high water mark. So it's only as years go by, it becomes a bigger achievement. You know, this great, you know, the greatest human engineering feat. But, you know, it's 50-some odd years ago. You always think it's gonna get better, but you never know when it goes away. It's like that championship with team wins. Oh, we're gonna win next year, and then you don't win for 50 years. They becomes a bigger deal. That's my sports analogy. But
Ladies and gentlemen, the best writer